Thank you. Thank you, Liz. It's wonderful to be here. And it is an incredible day, evening for this gathering to be taking place. I'm not endorsing any political candidate, but as you no doubt heard between panels today, Hillary Clinton officially withdrew from the race for Democratic Party nominee and endorsed Barack Obama. She endorsed Barack Obama. Now, whatever you think of Obama or the Democratic Party, and I say this quite seriously that I am not endorsing anyone, and I'm Canadian, this has to be recognized as at least a partial victory for the forces gathered here tonight. Progressives and online media overwhelmingly backing Obama over Clinton were proven right, and the corporate media, struggling to play catch-up after their early Clinton coronation, was proven wrong again and again. Now, what happened officially today is that the candidate of the establishment lost, and in the process, the grassroots in this country, particularly the media grassroots, grew and grew. Now, Obama's victory has been powered, as you know, by very real rage at the invasion and occupation of Iraq, at the abandonment of New Orleans, at US unilateralism on the world stage, at the inequalities created by a 30-year campaign to dismantle the New Deal. This movement that has grown has stunned the clueless mainstream press, and it has proven how much further left American voters are than the so-called political pundits, who are about as good, it would seem, as reading the American mind, as predicting the outcome of the disastrous invasion of Iraq. Now, the invasion of Iraq, I would argue, and I think many of you agree, and this really is the political significance of today's moment, is that Iraq was the decisive issue in the campaign. It was the one that voters returned to again and again. Clinton supported the war, Obama did not, and that matters. At long last, there has been some accountability for the people who started this disastrous war. What happened today is that somebody paid a price at last. It's not enough, but it's a beginning. It's a beginning. And it's thanks in large part to the media movements represented in this room that there was finally some accountability. And now, of course, the establishment is scrambling to assert control over Obama to make up for its early bad bet. This is entirely predictable. We would expect nothing less, but the question is this: what will the people who helped win his historic victory ask of Obama now? I hope that you will demand that he earn the incredible trust that he has been given. Because the hard truth is this: Obama may have the energy and the anger and the networks of the anti-war vote, but he does not have a plan to get us out of Iraq. What he has is a plan to downsize the occupation of Iraq, not to end it. He talks about keeping the green zone intact and calls that ending the war. Let me tell you, you cannot keep the green zone, which is the symbol of the foreign occupation of Iraq, without a massive troop presence that includes the military contractors like Blackwater as well. He may have the very real rage at the income inequality that has opened up in this country and around the world, but I am sad to say that he does not have a real plan to close that gap. And he may have the incredible, inspiring idealism of young environmentalists who are terrified about the future of this planet, but he does not have a green agenda that is a match to our climate crisis. So what is this moment that we feel, this confusing moment that we feel, that feels like a victory, only we're not sure, and we should listen to that skepticism. Because it's time to use the power in this room to do more than cheer for political candidates as if they are rock stars, as if they are candidates on a reality TV show. Our job is to tell the hard truth, and it is our job to push for the kind of radical change that can actually turn the political tide. We are in times of global crises. You don't need to tell me this, of serial crises, of crises layering on top of each other, oil crises, food crises, housing crises, military and monetary crises. It is a time in this country when millions are turning to food stamps, are facing eviction from their homes, returning maimed from war. It's worth remembering that America has faced moments like this before, and those moments have produced some of the most important progressive victories in the history of this country. Now, I want to bring our minds back to another moment of profound crisis after the market crash of 1929. That was the moment that created the New Deal. Now, it didn't happen because FDR was a great guy. It happened because people in this country were so radicalized, were so determined, were so organized, that he was able to sell the New Deal to the elites as a compromise, because the alternative was revolution. I don't know if you support Barack Obama. I don't know if you support any candidate, but I can tell you this, that the greatest gift that you could give him would be the gift of being that kind of a threat. The gift that he could be able to say to the Wall Street players that have funded his campaign, look, I've got no choice. They're crazy out there. I've got to get us out of Iraq. I've got to protect Americans from foreclosure. I've got to create a Green New Deal, because the credibility of the entire system is on the line. It's worth remembering the very special and important dynamics that created that process. The progressives of the 1930s drew energy from two key sources. They clearly saw the crisis as evidence of the failures of deregulated capitalism, the failures of laissez-faire economics. That's what created the crash. They had the correct diagnosis. They weren't afraid to make it. They also had their unshakable conviction in their own ideas, their own alternatives. And they had an unshakable belief that those ideas represented an end to the logic that had pushed so many into dire poverty so quickly. They declared an end to laissez-faire capitalism. Laissez-faire means let it be. We might call it stuff happens today. They wanted an activist government, one not afraid to do, to build, to plan, full employment. They did it through mass union drives, consumer organization, organizing students. They had this crazy idea. Their idea was that since Wall Street financiers had created the crisis, that de facto disqualified them from solving it. Now, the progressives of that era didn't think it was enough to get their candidate into office and relax. They knew they had to organize independent progressive movements to be a counterpower to the business lobby that was pushing from the other side. So yes, FDR brought in the New Deal, but he did so under enormous and continuous pressure from the grassroots. At the time, progressives, organized, were making demands that were far more radical than what they eventually got. They were asking for single-payer national health care. Upton Sinclair met with FDR, and he said to him, we don't want handouts, we don't want your charity, we want the tools of self-sufficiency. And he was calling for a mass campaign for workers' cooperatives across the country. Now, as you know, in my book, I write about disaster capitalism. This was something else. This was disaster collectivism. It was using a disaster to bring more people into the political process, build a deeper democracy. That was possible then, it's possible now. Now, it's helpful to remember this period for a couple of reasons. One, it reminds us that history is cyclical, because for the past 30 years, we have been living a backlash against the New Deal and policies like it around the world. That's what this era since Reagan has been about. But the mood is turning, and the climate is ripe for a new wave of big, bold, creative thinking and solutions. But I'm also bringing this up because there is a real danger of thinking that all it takes is getting a right candidate in the White House. And that, in fact, as you all know, is only the beginning. The weapons and so-called reconstruction companies, the ones who profit most from a continued presence in Iraq, have been getting very nervous about the possibility of a Democratic victory. And this is the first election cycle in 14 years that the Democrats have gotten more money from the arms industry than the Republicans. In 1994, the Democrats got 32% of the donations from the weapons companies. This year, they got 52%. Now, we know that the candidates, that the Democratic candidates, all of them, have been getting huge pressure from these corporations, and they've been getting very little more than cheerleading from their supporters, and that strategy simply doesn't work. Because we can't make this mistake. If we don't demand the kind of change that we want, it will not happen. We have to fight. We have to fight for this world that we want. We have to make the concrete policy demands. We have to push whichever candidate we believe in. Just as the weapons companies, the oil and gas companies, the agribusiness companies will be pushing them from the other side. This is a war, make no mistake. The disaster capitalists are organized and focused. If we want to challenge their disastrous vision of the world, one in which every new crisis is an opportunity to segregate us further and make record profits, we have to tackle their logic head-on. Now, the good news is this. When we work for peace and environmental sustainability, we don't just end the senseless killing abroad. We take our planet off of its disastrous course. We free up money to invest in people. In other words, we take away their market. Because without a steady stream of crises and disasters, the disaster capitalists are out of a job. Now, history is not made by great men. It's worth remembering this today on this great day. It is made in the space between, the space that opens up when those in power realize that they are more vulnerable than they think, and when those who have been told again and again that they are powerless find new reserves of power. Thank you.